special teams took its lumps across the board. You bring in an analyst this offseason. Have you tried to emphasize that a little bit more in practice, try to take more advantage of those hidden yards?
We haven't changed a lot. We've increased some meeting time. You know, we had some discussions over what might have been the reasons that we weren't as good as we thought, and we've come up with solutions and kind of put a plan in place. But it wouldn't be a big difference from what we've done in the past. I just think we need to do it a little bit better, and then in the end, if you have a fantastic returner, your special teams look really good. If you don't have a fantastic returner, they're kind of average. And so I didn't want to get too far out of the box and really evaluate who we are and what I think we need to do in order to improve ourselves in special teams is get a couple of guys back there that can touch the ball and make somebody miss and go to the distance. I think that'll help as much as anything that we've tried to do from a scheme standpoint.
In reference, Mike, to what you said about Sanders, you know, if he'd have gotten 25 more carries that year, he'd have had 3,000 yards. You said he came out of a ton of games, or probably half the games.
You talking about college or the NFL?
I'm talking about Barry Sanders here.
Yeah, somebody, you guys could figure it out. You guys are good at that, but with our Nebraska game, our Oklahoma game, other than that, I don't think he ever played in the fourth quarter. Because, you know, we averaged 52 points a game back then, and so he wasn't in the game much.
I wanted to ask you, not to respond, I'm not asking you to respond specifically to Ohio State, but in response to what's going on up there and in regard to off the field behavior and decorum. So does that change your message to all the people in your program, or do you strengthen that message? Do you deliver it more frequently? Is there any change in that regard at all?
Well, I don't think there's any question. Times are changing. People are more aware of what's going on for all the right reasons. Over the last 2, 3, 4 years, we've had a lot of education from people on campus and attorneys, Title IX, different resources to educate us on what to do. So I think it's just a matter of really saying we need to get whatever it could be to the proper channels when forever with coaches that just wasn't a procedure. And I think that's what's most important for us at Oklahoma State. That's what we've been told to do. You know, we have athletic department meetings with not just coaches, everybody. Because any bit of information that gets to somebody needs to be forwarded to, for lack of a better term, the proper authorities and let them do their job. And then for us here as coaches, we remove ourselves. And essentially we don't have any say-so in anything that goes on. And for the most part, that's a good thing. That way you can't be influenced one way or the other. When I started to run into certain issues, not particularly domestic or just issues coaches have, I had a coach tell me the first year that when you have something happen that's an issue, that he recommended the first thing you do is you sit down at your desk and you say, what's the right thing to do? You come up with an answer. And then you act on it. You don't sit down and say, how are we going to win a game without this guy, because he might not be playing for me if that's the right thing to do, because you won't make the right decision. And so that's the principle that I've tried to live by here. And I'm not saying it's easy, but that's what we've done here. So for us in the department, we've had a lot of education to get things to the proper channels and let other people do their job. And I think that's the right way to do it, so certain people aren't influenced one way or the other. And you know, I think it's important we all know nobody knows what's going on anywhere. You know, there's always more to every story. So, but that's what we do here, and it's worked out good for us.
Scott, yeah, what?
Mike, you obviously every year you have to adjust to the players and the talent that you have. With what you've got at running back on the offensive line and then the inexperienced quarterback that we've talked about, how much does that actually impact your philosophy of how you approach this offense?
The one thing, the one area, Scott, that I've tried to stress with offense since I've somewhat removed myself is, when we were in high school, Coach Evans was our coach, and I always thought he did a great job of making sure that the best players that touched the ball, that could give you a chance to score a touchdown, got to touch the ball. You know, from a basketball standpoint, if you have a fantastic shooter, we got to make sure that he shoots the ball 25 times, so he can shoot 50% maybe, you know, and give us a chance to win. So the only thing I've asked our guys to do is, what we've done for a number of years is list from 1 to 8, if you're that lucky, skill guys. If you had to say, this is the guy I need to touch the ball the most to help us score touchdowns, who would that be? And then who's second, and who's third, and who's fourth, and who's fifth, all the way down. Now, we've been lucky around here. Last year we had 10 of those guys. You know, that was a long list. We felt pretty good about 7 and 8 touching the ball. But it's really the first 4 or 5 guys. And that's the only thing I've asked the staff to do is it's just important that the guys that can actually make a play needs to touch the ball during the game. And at that position you're talking about, we've got a number of guys, and we're going to find out how good they are because they need to touch the ball. You would certainly hate, I'm not going to try to compare him, which I think he's very comparable, but the running back that was at Penn State last year, to come out of the game and only have 6 touches, you'd be like, the other team would be like, that's awesome. We used to have those issues with Dez because the way people played Dez. So we used to have schemes that sometimes we'd have to run him and hand the ball to him or flip it to him just so he could touch the ball. So that's kind of the concept that I would like these guys to use in the offensive room with the maturity and the talent that we have at that position.
Go back to our 1980s theme. Larry Coker is getting ready to go into the Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame. What do you remember about Coach Coker, and what did he mean to you?
A lot of good times. Really great guy to play for, and he kind of fits the mold of what we talked about. You know, we were very simple on offense here, but we were good, and so they didn't try to do too much. And you know, I spent a lot of time with him watching that old 16mm film, and I have fond memories of being in that room and coming up with game plans. And you know, we had a relationship where we would joke and talk about things, and a relationship a quarterback and his position coach should have, in my opinion. And he's very deserving. You know, if there's a guy that ever got a bad deal, is him. He should have still been coaching. I don't know what his record was when he got let go at Miami. It was pretty good, wasn't it? He was one call away for winning another one. So he's very deserving of everything he's getting at this time.
You know, 4 years ago, you had a hard time blocking anybody, and I remember you talking a lot about how you just didn't have playmakers in the backfield who could, you know, help those guys up front. And so now, don't you have?
We just weren't very good. I mean,
well, there you go. Okay, now you got to transition your quarterback. You have as good a circumstances, just about as you can hope for in regard to supporting cast, right? I mean, you seem to be better up front. No doubt you're loaded in the backfield. You got guys who can catch. I mean, so it's a pretty good set of circumstances for Cornelius as a rookie guy, right?
yeah, you know, it's interesting that if you remove the guys that we had last year that are in the NFL now, just take those 3 guys. And if you just looked at the circumstances, because that was a very unusual class of wide receivers for one team to have, people would look at us differently at wide receiver this year. They'd say, we're going to be good at wideout. You know, I mean, everybody would say, yeah, we're going to be good at wideout. But they're not. Everybody's used to the other guys, and so they're just kind of seeing them as what's left. And so that's the way I feel about it. I have a lot of confidence in 1 and 17 and 13, and I mean, I do. You know, I think those guys can make plays, and so the timing for the quarterback at this time is pretty good for a guy that's just stepping in after having, you know, 3 guys roll out here and go to the NFL.
it's big.
So
just a
4 guys.
Heck of a difference to average 3.2 per rush 4 years ago. And now you know you're gonna get 5.2, 5.5, whatever it amounts to.
Well, we always said, right, years ago, I said if you could average 4.2 yards a carry running the ball, you got a chance to be a decent offense. And when we weren't, we weren't very good offensively. And when we do rush the ball for 4.2 or better, we've been a pretty good offense. Reason being, it forces the defense to do a lot of things to originally stop that, because most defensive coordinators don't like coming out of a game where they said we allowed them to run the ball. If you can't instigate that frustration on a defensive coordinator, in our history, it's not been very good for the offense.
Nathan down front.
Mike, do you have a favorite uniform combination that you guys wear?
You know, we have so many of them, honestly, that I like. I'm pretty fond of that gunmetal color. I've always liked that, but they do a great job. You know, I not just because of us, but Justin and those guys and Coach Holder and them being able to work a deal with Nike's been awesome. You know, that's the one thing I get at home with my 13-year-old is he wants me to tell him what we're wearing, and I say I don't have any idea. And he'll say, well, you're the coach, and I'll say I don't do uniforms. And he thinks that I can spill the beans, but I don't actually even know in most cases till I see them myself. But they've done a fantastic job, especially with the helmets and stuff lately.
Any last questions for Coach?
Is it the same way for you, Coach? You show up and you just uniform hanging in the locker for you?
Yeah, I didn't even know I was wearing this today. It's hard for me to get from one place to the other and really know what's going on, so.